again, everyone, for joining us this evening. As I say, we are excited to get started here. My name is Pam, and I am an admissions representative for the program here at Mason. And I'm here as a resource to give information, answer questions, and walk through the admissions application process if this is indeed something that you decide to move forwards with. And here is our agenda for the evening. In a moment, we're going to meet the presenters who will obviously explore, why George Mason is a great choice. We'll be focusing on the Master of Education, Special Education, looking at curriculum details, ASD and ABA included. There'll also be a focus on hearing from a previous graduate's experience, Ben Felsen, and of course, learning a bit more about the faculty, the online classroom, admission requirements and next steps. And there will also be a time at the very end for a Q&A portion as well. And a few housekeeping items here that I want to review before we jump in. Feel free to use any of these features this evening. Obviously, the chat instructions that you've already started to utilize here. You may be able to raise your hand. Obviously, wait please for the hosts and the presenters to notify you that you can unmute yourself and share any questions that you have. But we can also share a lot of questions towards the end of the webinar as well. So you might want to wait till the end because your question might be answered during the duration of the webinar. All right, without further delay, I would like to hand over to our presenters this evening. We have Dr. Jody Duke and we have Dr. Christine Bartold. Over to you guys.
Hi, I'm Jody Duke. I'm an associate professor here at Mason, and I'm the academic program coordinator for the autism program. I've been here since 2008, which is a long time, so it's too long to do the math, but been here a while and excited to be here tonight to talk with you all.
Hi, I'm Dr. Chris Barthold. I am the academic program coordinator for applied behavior analysis. I have been at Mason since January of 2014 and have been a practicing BCBA, I should say, since 2001. I started much earlier than that. Hopefully you'll get some good information tonight from both of us, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have. Jody, would you like me to take this one or?
Sure. Why don't you start and then I'll pick up whatever you leave.
Okay. So this slide is pretty self-explanatory. Our format is part-time. We'll be getting into a little bit more of the specifics of that as the presentation goes on. And it is high quality and it's high intensity. We are really committed to giving you the best education possible as well as the best experience possible. So if you're interested in something to that effect, this is for you. We are ranked, I think number 7 is correct. We just got brand new rankings from US News and World Report for online special education programs. We're one of the top special education programs in the country, according to US News and World Report. And we have 2 tracks that you can choose from. You can either have a track in autism spectrum disorders or applied behavior analysis. And we'll explain what that means in a little bit. We definitely look at both of our programs, I would say both look at education from a lifespan perspective, and that we're not just preparing people to work in schools or clinics, but really to work anywhere they want to work. With learners with disabilities, autistic learners, and in the ABA program, really anybody at all. Yes, we have a unique, innovative approach to inclusive education. And when we say inclusive, we do mean everybody. So I'm going to turn the next slide over to Jody.
All right. So this is a look at our curriculum. Because we have two different tracks, we'll talk to you about each. But regardless of whether you choose the autism track or the ABA track, you will be a part of some core courses that we feel are really important for everyone to have some foundational knowledge. So you start with Introduction to Special Education, and then and that course really, it's a huge overview of the history of disability and sort of the history of special education. Um, Even though these two programs are not teacher preparation or teacher focused, we do want you to have that knowledge. 517 is a course people really like. It's the computer applications for special populations. So a lot of technology options here. You learn about high tech things and low tech options that you can create yourself, and how to use all these different pieces of technology for individuals that you'll be working with. We include a UDL course, Universal Design for Learning. The idea behind UDL, it's very much like the universal design that you see out in the community all the time, where it's about access to buildings and things like that in the community. UDL is kind of the same notion. The idea is that we design instruction and learning opportunities so that everyone can access them, regardless of their neurodiversity or anything else that's going on with their learning. And so in that course, you will learn all about how to do that. There's a research course, and I believe you can do that, or there's a capstone option. Then when you go into the autism program, and so Dr. Barthold, make sure I'm saying this right, but I believe what happens is if you choose just the certificate, then you do the courses that are in the tracks. But if you choose to do the masters, then you add on those core. So in autism, we have 6 courses. I am just building the last one to launch in a couple weeks here. 620 is a course that I teach. It's supporting behavior and sensory needs, and it's my favorite to do because we really dig into what can we learn, what are people trying to communicate through their behaviors, and how can we do some analysis of that and then develop supportive plans, and really looking at sensory causation as well. 634 is actually the first course that most people take, and that's our characteristics course. And so in that one, you get a very detailed overview of every level of autism diagnosis, of a lot of the different considerations related to autism, and really get to dig into all of that. We have an interventions course, a communication and literacy course. 637 is a cool one. It's a lifespan focused collaboration course that's broken up into modules that focus on different phases of life. So birth and early childhood, school age, all the way through aging, because we really are preparing professionals to work through such a variety of service delivery models and service agencies. And so we want to make sure that you are able to both collaborate and locate resources when you get to those settings. And then the new one we're building, I'm really excited about. It's going to focus on assessment, and with special attention to intersectionality of things like gender, race, language, ethnicity. So that one is a really cool course that we're doing a lot of sort of technical information that you need to know about assessment and diagnosis, but looking at it also through these interesting lenses that are so critical, and doing a lot of person first lived experiences where we're really trying to bring the autistic voice to that course. Dr. Baltel, do you want to talk about the ABA courses, or do you want me to roll?
Sure, I can talk a little bit about ABA.
Okay.
I think this is a good time to talk about the fact that we've been very intentional about being very distinct programs, the autism program and the ABA program, in that in the ABA program, what you're going to learn about is the foundations of behavior analysis. If it's not going to be so much about applications to specific populations, although we do talk about different populations. That I think I would say one of the decision points, if you're on the fence, do you want to do ASD? Do you want to do ABA? if you're coming to this wanting to really learn more about autism and the applications to autism, Dr. Duke's program really is the way for you to go. If you're looking to learn more about the science of behavior and how behavior analysis can be applied to just about anything you can think of, then the ABA track is the way to go. Or, there's nothing stopping you from doing both. It'd be a long set of courses, but definitely you would get a really good, well-rounded education if you were to do so. So let's talk a little bit about ABA. The first course is your foundational course. It's about behavior analytic principles. It's where you learn to talk like a behavior analyst, because a lot of the things that mean one thing to the rest of the world mean something very different to behavior analysts, and we really teach you how to do that. EDSE 621 is our data collection research course. This is where you learn to read behavior analytic literature, be able to learn how to take data, use those data to make decisions. EDSE 622 is my favorite. We'll talk a little bit more about this one, and it is one of our newest courses. And it is really about philosophical and conceptual issues. And in this case, in this course, you get to work with a virtual rat and do some experiments with a virtual rat. And it's just super cool. The EDSE 623, you will learn how to do functional assessments, assessments of problem behavior, assessments of appropriate behavior from a behavior analytic lens. In applications, I like to call this course the kitchen sink course, because this is where you're going to learn all the different ways that behavior analysis can be applied throughout the world. Verbal behavior is exactly what it is. It's a behavior analytic look at language and communication, and our ethics course. And I do want to mention that our ABA course is an approved, verified course sequence through the Association for Behavior Analysis International for the most recent task list. So your courses, if you also get your field work, will allow you to sit for the BACB exam. I'll turn it over to Dr. Duke.
All right, so here are the graduate certificate tracks that we were just talking about. And in autism, we are really preparing professionals for a wide range of careers working with autistic individuals. So we do get some folks who are educators, but we also get adult service providers, people who are employers who want to figure out how to really maximize the potential of those that they're working with. We get family members, just about everyone you can imagine. We actually, I think I now am looking, I need to update this because I believe that this month it's come out as 1 in 36, but it is a lot of children that we are seeing as diagnosed with autism. The need is tremendous. The career outlook is bright. Preparing professionals to work with these children and to prepare everyone to work with them as adults, because we have this lifespan focus. And we do that because there has been traditionally a child and school-aged focus in autism education. And we really want to make sure that we're equipping professionals for all fields and all age ranges. And so you will learn just about everything from birth all the way through aging, as I said, and prepare you with knowledge and experience.
Yep, and just want to piggyback on that with ABA. Dr. Duke and her team do an amazing job of teaching about autism, teaching about the characteristics, teaching about interventions across the lifespan in just about every environment that you would encounter autistic people. And on the flip side, what we try to do is immerse you in the behavior analysis piece. So we're not necessarily as much talking about therapy as we are about the application of these principles. It does allow you to sit for your board certified behavior analyst credential, you do also need field work, which we do not provide, but I'm happy to answer any questions about that once we're done here. And the one thing that you can count on from us is that we've been around for a while and we've been working at this and refining our craft. And we have one of the oldest ABA programs out there. The BCBA credential's only been around since 1999, and this program was started in the early 2000s. So our faculty have a wealth of experience, and we've been doing this a while. So you can count on us in that way.
There is a quick question in the Q&A, Dr. Barthold, about who are the clients that would be served if someone went with the ABA program.
That's a great question. It all depends on what you're looking for. So we're not teaching towards specific clientele. When we get to the faculty, I'll talk a little bit about some of our areas of study and expertise. But working with autistic kids is certainly something that you could do. And a lot of our graduates do go that route. But there's also other ways you can work in. I work in health and fitness. Other places, it might be one of our faculty works in psychotherapy. Another one of our faculty works with businesses. And we're starting to create a partnership actually with the Virginia prisons to have field work working in adult correctional facilities. So I wouldn't say that there's a specific population that you could work with. I think it's really up to you and up to what you would like to do. Not sure if
Awesome. I see a couple other questions. I'm going to keep going through this, and then we'll make sure that at the end, does that work, Dr. Barthold? Should we address those all at the end? Okay. I jumped the gun. I will do this slide because Beth was one of my students, and I'm excited to see this slide. So we always want you to hear from our students. So Beth was a student in the autism program. She now owns her own consulting coaching business, Spectrum Transition Coaching, and she works with young adults as they're preparing to leave high school, and coaches them on what's next, and works with some who are in college and some who are working on finding work. So she said the faculty were very engaged with the students and clearly interested in our success. They were very knowledgeable in the subject area and clearly passionate about their field. They were incredibly responsive to questions as well. So that's very complimentary. All right, so here I'll talk about the autism faculty, and then we will talk about, I'll let Dr. Barthold talk about the ABA. Dr. Grace Francis works with me in the autism program. She's a leading researcher in all things related to family and professional partnership. And she is just one of the, I would say, coolest down to earth professors you'll ever have. And then Dr. Lynn Jorgensen is also teaching in our program. She is currently directing our Mason Life program, which is a post-secondary program for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And she's been in the field for a really long time and has a lot of amazing knowledge that she shares, but is also incredibly compassionate and relates really well to all of the students. You want to do ABA?
Sure. My mouse is dead, so I keep reaching for it, and then I have to go to my trackpad. So we have, you can't go wrong with the faculty at Mason, quite frankly, if I do say so myself. There's so many high quality, compassionate people who are really dedicated to making sure that you're well prepared for wherever you want to go. And I think I can say that about both autism and ABA. But for ABA, let me tell you about our core faculty. Dr. Ted Hogue actually founded this program in the early 2000s. And when I was talking about people who do psychotherapy, he is a licensed marriage and family counselor, I think is what his license is. And he has worked with people with developmental disabilities. He's worked all over the place. But he is our original ABA faculty, and he's taught all of the courses in this sequence. Dr. Christy Park is working in more school-based supports, but also home programming as well for autistic kids. And we partner quite a bit on that. And Dr. Lisa Tulo is working in what's called organizational behavior management. It's not quite industrial organizational psychology, but it's the application of behavioral principles to business and increasing productivity, reducing workplace accidents, that type of thing. We also have really top-notch adjunct faculty who work with our students, who also have a wealth of knowledge. And we all have worked in some way or another in the DD field or in the autism field. Like I said, I work also with health and fitness. I do personal training and health coaching. And I think the one thing that we can say about the ABA faculty is that we're all also engaged in the field. So not only are we professors, but we are practitioners as well. So, sometimes people say, oh, well, when was the last time you worked with a client? And I can say about 3 hours ago, not even actually about an hour ago. So that's why I was running late. So we are all engaged in the field and working, as well as teaching you what you need to know. So you'll definitely get a well-rounded education from all of us. These look like mine. Should I take those, Dr. Duke?
I think it is, yes.
Okay.
Please.
All right. So to show you a little bit about what the online learning environment looks like. If you've never done online learning before, you might think, oh, it's watching a ton of videos and then taking a bunch of multiple choice quizzes. And we've been really intentional that that would not be your experience, because that's not the best way to learn. You're going to be doing a lot of stuff with simulations, and hopefully Dr. Duke will jump in and talk about some of the wonderful experiences that you can have with her program. I talked about you can work when you're in ABA, you can work with a virtual rat, the Rattus cyberneticus, which students get a lot out of. At first, they're a little wary, but they do get a lot out of this. And this is from our EDSC 623 course, where you actually watch a behavioral assessment take place with a simulated client, take data, and actually write a behavior plan with it. There are places where you will collaborate with your group members. You won't be going through this alone. We've been also very intentional about creating community amongst our students and making sure that you know who you're taking classes with, because that's not always the case in online learning. So Dr. Duke, do you want to talk a little bit about your case studies?
Yeah, thank you. In the autism program, there isn't any field experience because we have students from all over the world, and it would be really challenging for us to supervise everyone in their different locations. And so we had the opportunity to create video case studies. They're incredibly comprehensive. When we started this program a few years ago, we identified 4 different people with autism at different age ranges who allowed us to basically follow them around with the entire video crew for several days. And so you get to see these folks at home, at school, at work. You talk to families, you talk to ABA therapists who work with them, you talk to teachers, just about everyone you can imagine. And then we have used these 4 folks to give you practice taking the concepts that we're teaching and putting them into practice. So your assignments are very, very heavily involved these 4 case studies. The students that I'm working with right now are doing different behavior plans. And so we give them clips of a very specific behavior issue, and they do a lot of analysis and then sort of figuring out what's causing the behavior or what the behavior is trying to communicate. And so it's been an amazing part of the program. The students that we've had really say it's a valuable way to learn, because you don't just get a quick a quick clip. It's really this really deep insight into the individual and their family systems and everything around them. So that's sort of the big piece with ours. And again, just like with ABA, you might have a reading quiz, but that's about the only multiple choice you'll see. Everything else is activity-based collaboration. You definitely will get to know your peers and your faculty. Okay, I think this is where we turn it over for you to talk about admissions.
Yeah, definitely. Before we jump into the Q&A portion here, just like to review a few of the admissions processes. So if you have any questions, regarding these steps that appear on your screen here, as far as, start dates, the application materials, anything like that, please do reach out to your admissions representative. If you don't know who your advisor is or your representative is, I will be sharing contact details to the main office on the last slide. So please take note of that and reach out to the office and we'll be able to partner you up with someone. Your advisor will be able to address everything that you're missing in terms of application materials, as I've said, start dates, things like that. So a quick overview here. One of the requirements is, of course, a bachelor's degree. We do ask for a minimum of 3.0 GPA. If your GPA is slightly lower than that, 3.0, we typically do recommend including a GPA addendum, a short statement in your application, just to kind of help you explain, what happened, if anything happened, what you might have learned from your experience during your bachelor's, and that will kind of add value to your application and just help us to fill those gaps in. We also do require transcripts. We are able to get decisions using unofficials as long as they have key bits of details included on them. And then we can always request your officials if you're accepted. Of course, you can always request officials from the get-go as well. That's totally fine. We also do require a professional resume, 2 letters of recommendation as well, one of which must be from a current or previous supervisor. And of course, we don't accept personal recommendations from family and friends. So the second one can be a colleague, for example, or even an additional supervisor if you have that. And then a personal statement is the final requirement, and that word count would be from 750 to 1,000, and the prompt will be shared with you again by your advisor. So those are the main components of the admissions process. And again, if you have any questions about that, please do reach out to your admissions advisor or reach out to the main office, and those details will be shared with you on the very last slide. Okay. All right, we're going to jump into the Q&A portion here. So I'll go ahead and read out the questions, I guess, or would you guys like to read the questions yourselves and pick out questions? How would you like to move forwards?
We can try to go through them. That's fine. I'll start with the ones that I see in the chat and then we can move to the Q&A maybe. So how many hours of field work do we need? I think that's an ABA question. We do not have field work in autism, so 0 if that's an autism question.
Yes, yes. And I see a bunch of questions about fieldwork. So I also see a bunch of questions about teacher licensure. So do you mind, Dr. Duke, if I take those two? Okay. These programs they are not teacher prep programs. So you would not be able to get teacher licensure through these programs. If you already have teacher licensure and your state happens to have an autism endorsement, you may want to check and see if Dr. Duke's program does qualify you for that autism endorsement. I know that Delaware does. I believe Maryland has one, but I'm not sure if they would qualify. You'd have to check with your state. As far as field work is concerned, there are 2 different ways, 2 different paths to get field work. I'm going to talk about the general one, and then there's a more intensive field work. They are not practicum at this point. A lot of employers do provide that field work. I see someone asked if they're a registered behavior technician, can they get field work from their job? Yes, but you have to do extra work and you should have a supervisor who knows what type of work you need to do on the job. You need 2,000 hours of behavior analytic field work in order to sit for the exam. And those hours need to be supervised by a qualified BCBA. And those sometimes happen in schools. If you have access to someone who is a BCBA, you might want to ask them a bit more information about that. That can get a little bit more involved. So I would feel more comfortable if you all want to contact me directly. I'm happy to answer any specific questions about fieldwork. I don't want to take up everybody's time.
Okay, I see a question from Asma about the programs and what they qualify you for. And I did see one, I think, in the Q&A that was similar. So the autism program does not have any teacher licensure component. We are in Virginia here, and in Virginia, there is no licensure for autism. We do have special education licensures that we could talk with you about that you can put together with autism programs. But this program alone does not prepare you to be a teacher. The autism program and the ABA program are both completely online, and they are asynchronous online, which means that you log in and the coursework is there each week and you engage, and there are certainly deadlines and things that you have to meet in terms of timeline. But at least for the autism program, I shouldn't speak for yours, but in autism, any synchronous time where we're on together like we are right now would be optional because it is considered asynchronous. It is an 18 credit graduate certificate for autism and a 30 credit master's. Dr. Bartol, do you want to address those questions for your program too?
Sure. The same number of credits apply for the master's in special education with applied behavior analysis. We have 7 courses. Dr. Duke has 6, which means it's one less of the special education courses. But our synchronous meetings work a little bit differently than Dr. Duke's in that ours are required, but they are most likely scheduled on your time. So there isn't a set time where you have to meet, Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock or anything like that. But you do need to meet with your group members throughout courses. And that was designed because one thing that's often missing from ABA programs is that collaboration piece. And so we really wanted you to work with others and learn some of those key collaboration skills that you are going to need just about every single day. So ours are not optional, but they are flexible. Probably the best way to put it.
All right. I'm seeing in the Q&A, working with students with special disabilities for 2.5 years, as well as ASD. Can you combine these 2 tracks, ASD and ABA? We have definitely had students who've gone through both tracks, absolutely. And so the admissions folks are great at working with you to individualize whatever kind of program you would like. ABA program, how many classes are educational and how many are ABA? I think maybe you're thinking about those core, that sound like it's asking about those core. So if you do the master's, rather than just the certificate track, you would take those 5 core courses and then take the remaining ABA. Yeah, there's a graphic that's easier, isn't it?
Yeah,
Thank you.
we actually do one less core course.
Okay.
And because we have the 7 courses. And I'm blanking actually on which one that is, unfortunately.
No, you're right, because the 590, someone asked the other thing. I believe both programs, if you do the master's, it's 4 courses. I misspoke because 590 is either the research or the capstone.
Mhm.
You do not take both of those. So it would be just the 4.
Yes,
I'm the one who misspoke there.
I believe that ABA does not take the Universal Design for Learning course. However, please talk to the advisors about that because I may be wrong about that. So you would take 7 courses for us. If you're with Dr. Duke, you would take 6 courses and get your master's degree. But the majority of what you'll be working on is either ABA or ASD.
Yeah, and there's a question while we're on this topic. The capstone is sort of a research opportunity. So you can come up with a project of your own if you have an advisor who is willing to take you on. So that one almost becomes more of a student guided project of some kind. The majority of our students do take the special education research course.
And I did see a question, I think I can answer kind of as far as the capstone is concerned. I saw somebody ask about the 6th edition test content list. And I know that that 5th edition task list, test content list. I will say this, the board's requirements are very confusing and they change very rapidly for ABA. And so rest assured we're on top of it, is the thing that I would say. And these requirements are going to change, and there is going to be some more additional requirements coming down the pike in a couple of years. But for right now, if you go through this program and you get your 2,000 hours in a timely manner, you'll be able to sit for the exam. And if for some reason you need more time or you need to change things around, we work with people all the time about that. So if you're worried, oh, what if I can't sit for the exam because it's, they changed something, we are so on top of that, and we will make sure that you are in the best shape possible to sit for your exam.
It looks like most of these questions are ABA. Do you want me to read them off, or would that be helpful, or are you seeing them?
Sure.
All right. People want to know how much your books cost.
Oh, that's a good question. And I will say that we try to keep things as reasonable as possible, but the publishers sometimes, they do what they do. But typically a lot of our books are available as ebooks, which brings the cost down quite a bit. There's a couple of books that you can actually get for free through some, like the BF Skinner Foundation and things like that. So we do try to keep things as reasonable as possible. And you can actually, if you want to, you can go onto the GMU website and look at the syllabi for all of these courses. We do have them listed online. So if you want to look up the books and see how much they cost, that might be a good idea for you. So let's see here. I think I answered all of that. And then someone asked, does your master's in special ed cover the core classes? Yes, it does. For ABA, it absolutely does. All right. Which one should I take next, Dr. Duke?
All right. How about, are your synchronous sessions for ABA weekly?
Yes. If there are synchronous sessions in a course, you will be required to meet with your group weekly.
All right. And how many hours a week should a full-time working adult set aside for ABA classes and studying?
That is a great question. We usually say about 8 to 10 hours a week. So that sounds like a ton, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm working or whatever, but there's a ton of content that we have to prepare you for the exam. And so I tell my students, if we made it simpler or we reduced the response requirement, our pass rates wouldn't be as high on the exam. So, and though the average pass rate on the BACB exam is about 65%. So we're really taking this seriously and making sure that you're as prepared as possible.
And is it best to complete did you answer this one already? I think the RBT certification prior to taking the ABA track course, or can I apply for the BCBA track while working towards my RBT? That's a lot of acronyms. Did you get that?
I did. RBT is the registered behavior technician. A lot of our students come in as techs, but just as many do not. So it's not necessary. You don't have to have your technician. It's not a certification, it's registration before you start. That's not necessary. And some people just jump in, and you're welcome to. So.
Okay, this is from a student who's interested in the ABA track, has a master's in SPED, and was told that the 7 courses would be required. Is that true? Does the master's in SPED cover the core courses?
So the master's in SPED will cover those core courses, the education courses, but we cannot, unless you have taken ABA courses in another university, and it can't be the classroom management courses. It has to be BACB approved, or actually ABAI approved courses. So you have to take those 7, and we can't really waive those. That's because you wouldn't be able to sit for your exam. And then I'm just going to jump in with, do I have to pay for my supervisory hours? Yes. So the supervisory hours are going to be kind of on your own. Now, if you work for an agency who provides supervised experience, or maybe you're working in a school with a BCBA and the principal has approved you getting your supervised hours in the school, you may be able to get it as part of, your duties as assigned. If you hire a supervisor, if you're working in another realm and you have to hire a supervisor, I can't say that I have a going rate for supervision. It's really kind of all over the place. And it depends on who you want to work with. I will say that there are some quality controls in selecting a supervisor if you need a supervisor. And I would encourage you to reach out to me or Dr. Hoke. Dr. Hoke knows everything about the board, or Dr. Tulo or Dr. Park, about how to identify a quality supervisor so that you're not stuck. You thought you had your supervision hours and you really didn't, which sometimes happens to students. And, we really don't want that to happen to you, because that's just devastating. So if you have questions about that, I would suggest reaching out to one of us and we'll answer those questions as much as we can.
Okay, thank you so much to Dr. Duke and Dr. Bartels for going through all of those questions. I do believe every one of them has been answered, so thank you so much. And to our participants, if you have any last questions, now is your kind of last moment here to share those questions with us before we sign off. And as you're thinking there, just please do also jot down the contact details that I mentioned earlier. If you are unaware of who your admissions advisor is, you have the telephone number here for the main office. If you'd rather send an email in, that's also absolutely fine. You can send an email in with your queries and we can correspond with you via email. And also I've shared here the website for Mason Online, so you can go ahead and explore that before you call or before you email if you would like. So that's there for you to just jot down here. And any last questions before we sign off here? Brian saying thank you for all the information. You're so welcome. I think everyone's been great in terms of participating. It really does help when you guys ask those questions, so we appreciate that. All right. We've got one more question here from Tracy. For the ASD track, what does a semester look like? Can you take more than one class?
It's a great question. We actually have shortened semesters, so you can take two autism courses or ABA courses during the length of a typical semester. So we take a 15-week semester and we break it down. So courses run, I think it's just around 7.5 weeks in the summer. I think we're going to 7 weeks. So they move quickly, and you have modules that are weekly in most courses. So you take one class at a time, and you tend to move through the same sequence with your peers, which can kind of create a nice community, I think. And so, yes, you do 2 a semester.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, last call for questions. We've got one more, I think. No, we're all good. All right. Well, I think we'll end it there. Thank you again, Dr. Duke and Dr. Bartel, for your time this evening. Very much appreciated. It's been lovely spending this time with you. Thanks.
Thank you all so much. Have a good night.